Helen, welcome. I am Amarachi Ubani. This week, Diplomatic Channel looks into the case of 457 Nigerians in Brazil's federal prison on various drug offences. Chairman of the House of Representatives Committee on Diaspora tells us why they're there and how the Nigerian government has intervened. And then the concluding part of our interview with the head of Syria's mission in Nigeria, Dr. Abdulhamid Saloom, as he defends his country's government. We'll be going into these in a few minutes after a quick check on other diplomatic headlines. Now, the case of a 72-year-old Nigerian woman in Brazil's federal prison, that's what caught the attention of the House of Representatives Committee on Diaspora. And not exactly, though, because a non-governmental organization, Youth Without Borders, solicited their help for the 14 women in Sao Paulo's Women Plenipotentiary Prison. Chairman of the committee, Honorable Abike Dabiri tells us more in this interview. First of all, Honorable Abike Dabiri, thank you for granting us this interview.
Thank you.
Let's begin with how you heard about Nigerians in Brazil prisons.
Well, there's this NGO set up by a set of Nigerian twins, 26-year-old girls, Tawa and Kende Afolabi. They came to the National Assembly. They came to my office and told me about the plight of Nigerian prisoners in Brazil, well, especially the women. And they told us about the case of a 72-year-old woman who was in prison, and they felt, well, something can be done or it's something that could be looked into. We assured them that someday we will come on oversight there, and we did. And it was very emotional, it was very touching.
How
Three
long
of
ago
us,
was this?
oh, just 3 days ago. Myself, the Deputy Chairman, Honorable Betty Apiafi, and Honorable Abdurrahman Terab, were the three-man delegation from the Committee on Diaspora, accompanied by the consular officer in Brazil, Mrs. Jane Okocha, and the twins. The twins arranged the visit to the prison, and I tell you, it was something else. I mean, having the women working. The 72-year-old woman can be anybody's mother. And her story was quite pathetic. But what we're saying is that, according to Brazilian law, an elderly person will not even be in jail. So we're arranging for her to be placed under house arrest while she's given a speedy trial. And if she's guilty, too bad. But if she's not, I'm sure the law will take its course.
But what struck you most about her case? Is it just her age or the fact that, she was into drug trafficking?
Well, when you hear that a 72-year-old woman is arrested for drugs, you wonder what's going on. But her story is that she wasn't feeling well. She has a hip problem, and you could say she has a hip problem. And then some pastor said, look, it's okay, we'll take you to Brazil for medical treatment. She was sent to Brazil, but when she got there, no medical treatment was forthcoming. So through one Patricia there in Brazil, somebody came to her and said, don't worry, Mama, you go back home, take this bag. When you get there, somebody's going to receive you, and then we'll arrange some form of medicals again for you. But what I think attracted the people at the airport was the fact that her visa expired 1 day after she got to Brazil. And she didn't even know where Brazil was or what it was all about. So it's not for us to believe or not believe her story. The law will take its course, but the fact was that she was found with drugs. And, at a point, the woman held myself and Betty's hands and said, please, I don't want to die here. I want to come back to Lagos. So ours is, well, let the law take its course. She hasn't been tried. She's been there since September. And September last year. She hasn't even gone on the trial. Some false boy did. So ours is, even if, no matter what, we're Nigerians and we should look into these cases. And of course, for the other 13 women, virtually all of them accepted that they did drugs. And that was out of poverty, desperation. One pathetic one was the woman who wanted money to cure her daughter's heart ailment. The daughter died last month. But the message to them is, it doesn't matter. Nothing should make you do this. Out of 14 of them, I think about 10 or 11 admitted we did this thing, about 3. The 72-year-old woman, there's another 61-year-old woman who also claims she didn't know what she was. She has 10 children actually, and we're going to communicate with her children.
But talking about the agreement where, the agreement that you said was signed back in 2009 about, Nigerians coming back home to serve their sentences, who does it really pay?
Whether it pays or not, I don't think is the point. Now, the point is that we are becoming nuisances to these countries, and they also have to protect themselves. So if they say, well, when they get here, if you want them, or rather we want you to have them, but there has to be an agreement. I think what matters now is that what do we do about the increasing number of prisons? But it's not only Brazil. Brazil is the most current one, and Brazil more because it's now more difficult to go through Asia. Indonesia, Thailand, and some other countries, they will kill them once you're caught with drugs. So I think we should really look at the fact that why are we having this increasing number, and we have to do something about it. I don't think we're paying enough attention.
Well, there are some people who have been ignorant of the fact that they were carrying drugs. I know someone who said that something was planted in his luggage. He didn't know. There are cases of people who do not even know what packages they're being given to transport. What is your advice for the unassuming traveler, especially one who plies the Brazil route or routes that are known for drug trafficking?
There should be a massive awareness program, because really you could see some level of ignorance in some of them, especially the older ones. It was obvious that they were actually ignorant. In some, it could be 1%, 2%. It's obvious. So there should be a level of measure of awareness. If somebody gives you something, look at it, search it. In fact, there's a case of a woman where the drug was found inside some T-shirts she was supposed to bring that right inside. So, and I think some of them just sit down and say, well, A hasn't been caught. So it really doesn't matter. So there should be more awareness, and let people know that, don't even carry anything for anybody, or don't let anybody send you with anything. But that we can understand. This is a country where you don't even speak the language, it's Portuguese they speak. So it's even a problem. NDLEA in particular really has to be on ground in Brazil. That's the major way out. That's what South Africa did, and you find that it has gone down drastically. So if you have our own drug enforcement agencies there, it's going to help a lot. 2, there should be a direct flight between Nigeria and Brazil. This is Brazil, this is Nigeria. 8-hour flight takes you 2 days. So going through those various routes, it becomes a bit more difficult. But if there's a direct flight, and most important is that this is a time where there's going to be, or there's beginning to be, more trade and investment between Nigeria and Brazil. Both countries really have a lot in common, and there should be more in terms of trade and investment.
Honorable Dabiri, thank you so much for speaking with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
When we come back after the break, we head to Syria. Though the government has agreed to peace plans by the UN Arab League envoy, leaders at a summit in Istanbul, Turkey, say their government will be funding the rebel fighting against President Bashar al-Assad. To join us again.
We live in an ever-changing world. Every minute we're bombarded by major stories and breaking news. Keep up with the world's major headline news in less than 30 minutes on The World Today. Weekdays, only on Channels Television.
Welcome back. It's to watching Diplomatic Channel on Channels Television with me, Amarachi Ubani. 70 Western and Arab foreign ministers over the weekend said they would be paying salaries to rebels fighting the government of President Bashar al-Assad. The agreement actually is that wealthy Gulf Arab states would supply millions of dollars a month for the Syrian National Council, which is now recognized by leaders as the legitimate representative of Syrians. The SNC President Baron Galoun says the SNC will take charge of the payment of fixed salaries of all officers, soldiers and others who are members of the Free Syrian Army. To get a clearer picture on what's going on in Syria, I spoke earlier with Professor Isaac Mbachu at the Nigerian Defense Academy in Kaduna. The foreign ministers who are meeting in Istanbul, Turkey, are saying that now wealthy Gulf states will be paying salaries to these rebels. I wanted to get your take on that.
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, the foreign ministers of the Arab League, not all of them agree because Iraq is not part of them. Iraq is not in support of what the foreign ministers they agree to fund them, support them, because these foreign ministers were actually delegated by the United States of America and their allies. Otherwise, tell me, what is happening in Syria now? Is it different from what is happening in Bahrain? Why is it that they are not funding the protesters or the criminals in quotes in Bahrain? Why are they not supporting those in Morocco? Why are they not supporting those that even rioted in Saudi Arabia or in Jordan? So they are supporting all them the rebels, not because they're no longer the protesters in Syria, because somebody is engineering a regime change in Syria.
Okay, sorry.
Will not stop at anything until Assad is removed.
Okay, President Bashir has always insisted, I think probably in agreement with what you just said, he has insisted that the rebels are being sponsored from the outside. Now, you think that the latest action by these foreign ministers perhaps confirms what he's been saying, that there's a plot to topple perhaps a legitimate government in Syria that has already promised reforms in the next few months?
Thank you very much. Assad has already promised initiated reforms. But the West and the protesters, well, if you call them protesters, but nowadays they are terrorists, would not listen to Assad. In fact, they don't want to give him even chance to hand over to anybody. It is outright let him go into exile with his family. And of course, you know what will happen after then. So what is happening, it is very unfortunate. It is very, very unfortunate because it's just like what I said last time. In international politics, the strong take what they can. The weak surrender what they must. So this is international politics. It is a field of outrageous paradox, of selective morality and double standards. Why I'm saying this is that what is happening in Syria, why not use the same yardstick? Why not apply the same thing to Bahrain, the same thing to Jordan, the same thing to Saudi Arabia? The reason is that Syria is a force to be reckoned with in the Middle East, and it has been a long desire of the United States of America to dismantle Syria that is allied to Iran. In fact, by targeting Assad, by trying to remove Assad, destabilize his regime, they are indirectly also attacking Iran because Syria and Iran are very close.
Okay, now the foreign leaders are recognizing the Syrian National Council as a legitimate government, and the same thing was done in Tunisia. We saw that I think it was almost the same thing. It was also called the SNC. It was also done in Libya. What sort of precedent is this setting for the international community, supporting rebels against a sitting government?
It's a selective morality. They are supporting these people. Okay, these members of Arab League you mentioned, the foreign ministers of Arab League, who are they? These are the people that are piloted or instigated by the West. Some of them do not agree to what is happening. In fact, that is why China and Russia vetoed. Because if you are instigating in any other country of the world. So it is a very, very dangerous game. It is assuming a dangerous dimension in international politics. But it is not a new thing. It is not a new thing because in international politics, victim first, morality later. And in fact, this constitutes the fundamental principle of international politics. It is not new, but the question is how long would we allow this type of thing to continue?
Well, thank you so much, Professor Mbatri, for speaking with us.
Thank you very much, Amarachi. Thank you.
Well, Syria, of course, believes much of the infighting is being influenced by the outside, something Dr. Abdulhamid Saloom, Syria's head of mission in Nigeria, made clear to us last week. And this week, he continues the defense of his country's government. We know the government does enjoy a lot of support in Syria. There are a lot of Syrians who are actually backing President Bashar al-Assad. But how do you reconcile that with the number of people who are calling for him to step down?
As I told you, actually, this is, because of this media and these satellite channels that belong to countries which are part of what's going on in Syria. Those channels do not reflect the truth. You are right that the majority of the people actually they are supporting Bashar Assad and the reforms program that he is carrying out. They are supporting that. And I can also assure you that the Western leaders know this reality, but they don't want to admit it. But recently, some of the officials in the West started to declare that they miscalculated the popularity of Bashar Assad, and he has a very large support from his people. So they don't want to reflect the truth, because as I said, they have certain schemes, and even they defend the terrorists. Some of the Western countries, they send what they call journalists into Syria. How did they send them? By smuggling them from the Lebanese territory into the Syrian territory.
But that's because it was believed that Syria closed its borders to international media.
Not at all. It's not correct. In the past 2 months, more than 200 journalist delegations have been licensed and authorized and granted visas to come to Syria, and they came. But those who are not real journalists, who are not coming for the purpose of transporting the truth, those only who infiltrated into Syria through the borders by the help of the armed groups. How did they know that? By the help of the armed group, they entered from Lebanon into Syria. So how did they know that? How did they know that? How did they meet them at the border and they smuggled them into even the hut area in homes and protected them? And when the government units entered homes, those people were, surrounded. There was the International Red Crescent and the International Red Cross and the Syrian Red Crescent trying to help them move out of this hot area. But the armed group did not let them. Why? because there have been, this is my opinion of course, there have been among them military and intelligence experts.
Well, speaking about journalists, you've heard that some international journalists have lost their lives in Syria. Would you say that these people died from terrorist attacks, as you have mentioned at the beginning? They're the ones you said were perpetrating the violence. Or was it maybe as a result of a mistake from the government trying to clamp down on these so-called terrorists, and they have been caught across?
No, the government is not responsible whatsoever about what happened to these journalists. Syria facilitated the entrance of all journalists, contrary to what some channels claim. They facilitated and they issued more than 200 authorizations for journalist delegations, and they came into Syria. But they came legally and regularly, not by infiltrating through the border with Turkey or through the borders with Lebanon. The government asked these people to come, and they welcomed them, because the government knows where are the dangerous places, where are the hot zones that they should evade to be on the safe side. That was only the role of the government. We never asked any journalist, to be, except to be only objective. But there was no limit to their jobs. No limit. But some journalists who entered into Syria secretly and who have been smuggled by armed groups, and I don't know how did they know those people. What is the relation between them? How did these armed groups knew about the journalists and they smuggled them from the Lebanese border into the Syrian border? I mean, this is a question. It means these are coming under the title of journalists, but actually they have other missions.
But the international community has already placed sanctions on President Bashar al-Assad and his government. How does Syria cope with these sanctions?
Well, actually they imposed sanctions against the Syrian people. And the one who was affected negatively by these sanctions, they are the Syrian people. But you know that Syria is an agricultural country. And we thank God that in Syria we eat from what we grow and we wear from what we make. And this is a lot from the negative effects of these sanctions against our people. And I can tell you that even these sanctions contradict all human rights norms to impose sanctions against a certain people. This is contrary to human rights values and norms, and even to the humanitarian international law.
Well, at the beginning of these protests, the government said it was making reforms, some of the reforms that you have already mentioned. But the protests continue. It's been 1 year after. Where does Syria go from here?
The government is persisting in the reforms program. in a road map of reforms to Syria. And the government is proceeding in this path. Violence in Syria maybe will be for some time. Why? Because some parties in the region and behind, they are supporting these armed groups by arts, by money, by experts, by everything. Those who claim to be careful and jealous about the Syrian people, I do call them through your channel. If you are honest in this, if you are sincere in your declarations that you want the interests of Syrian people, I ask you to do only something. Stop inciting and instigating in your satellite channels, and stop providing these armed people with arms and money. If you do that, we can believe that you are careful. Otherwise, you are complicit and responsible about each drop from the Syrian war. And history will not forgive you.
Dr. Salam, thank you so much.
Thank you very much to you, and I am very glad that you are here, and thank you for coming to make this interview and reflect the reality. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And that's it on the program this week. You can send your comments via diplomatic channel at channelstv.com. Join the discussion on Facebook or begin one of your own. Go to www.facebook.com/diplomatic channel. I am Amarachi Ubani. Have a good week.